I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water.
It's about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
Join movement expert Aaron Alexander as he dives into the minds of the foremost innovative healthcare thinkers on their approach to optimal health and wellness. Align Podcast.
Welcome back to Align Podcast. My name is Aaron Alexander. In today's phenomenal episode, got to have my friend, dear friend, Max Lugavere. Also, New York Times bestselling author, Max Lugavere, of The Genius Foods. It's not called The Genius Foods, just Genius Foods. Anyway, it's a really great book. He is a regular presenter, communicator, speaker, teacher, prophet on the doctors and Dr. Oz and all the major TV shows, and he is considered a expert around the globe on all things nutrition, and I'm really grateful to have had him on this program today for the, I think, second time. This conversation, we get into balancing your hormones, we get into dealing with trauma and tragedy in our lives, and just really great conversation. I really appreciate it. It was recorded in my sauna here at my place in Santa Monica, and I'm grateful to get to share it with you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to the website, alignpodcast.com, ALIGN podcast.com. If you feel drawn to that URL, you can start the 5-Day Movement Challenge. People have been digging that. It's 5 simple videos breaking down fundamentals of what y'all need to move well in your life on a daily basis. I want to thank y'all as well. I'm saying y'all a lot. Y'all. Silly word. For reviews on iTunes. Greatly appreciate that. I read each and every one, and it means a lot. It also helps boost the algorithmic God appreciative score for this program. I want to thank also Ned for supporting this podcast. Ned is a really rad company that is serving up the highest quality CBD oils. Absolutely some of the highest quality CBD oils that I've come across, and it's all single source, it's all cold extracted. The culture and the community in creating it are all really tremendous human beings, and I trust the stuff. I dig it. It's helpful with sleep, and it's helpful with inflammation and all the good things. So you can get yourself a 15% discount if you go to helloned.com/align. helloned.com/align. Highly recommend that stuff, and I think that's it. I hope you guys devour this conversation. Thank you so much to the people that have gotten started with the Align Method online program. That is so cool of you guys, and I appreciate the great feedback coming back from that. And it's a free trial, 7 days, free. You can just start and just see what you think. And if you don't dig it, then you just don't continue. No big deal. All right, here we go. Back to the shizzy. If you got any questions, comments, hit us up at Align Podcast on the gram. And hope you have a beautiful day. Thanks for tuning in. Here we go. Pow.
Align Podcast.
All right. Does it sound like it's happening? Can you say some shit?
Hey, some shit.
Yeah, that's good. We're in it.
Yeah.
I could probably turn the mics up on that side, but that's okay. It's all good.
I think it sounds good, yeah.
We're good. All right. So we're in the sauna. It's 115 degrees. I had to finagle you to get in here. I don't know why. You probably assumed I was going to try to have sex with you afterwards. Well, I won't include that part. I don't think. So why do I put salt in the water? You got any sense of that?
Electrolytes, baby.
What do we do with those electrolytes?
You lose sodium by the boatload. That's a scientific term.
Huh.
And it just it helps replace the electrolytes lost. And I'm assuming you put in like a pretty high quality salt. Yeah. Which includes other trace minerals.
What kind of salt should people be looking for? I don't know if that's like a speciality of yours. Hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot and you're like, dude,
No.
I'm not a salt guy.
Well, I do know that many sea salts around the world have been tested and have been found to be contaminated with microplastics because our oceans are becoming increasingly polluted. And I don't like the uber processed like table salts usually, even though they have iodine in them, which is good. We need iodine. A lot of them contain, anti-caking agents. Some contain aluminum, which you don't want to consume, excessive amounts of aluminum. So I like Real Salt, which is a company out of Utah, and I like them because their salt comes from an underground, dried up lake, essentially, that is pristine. It's been untouched by pollution, and they basically just mine the salt. And I have no financial affiliation with Redmond, but yeah, they produce this real salt stuff, which I like. And I do that too. I put salt in my water before I hit the sauna.
What about like iodized and like all those terms? Is there anything that people should be looking for as far as?
No, I mean, the thing is, like, salt, like many of our packaged processed foods, has become enriched because of the widespread prevalence of nutrient deficiencies in this country. But if you're eating foods that are rich in iodine naturally, then you're not going to need to consume iodized salt. The problem is when you're on the standard American diet, there's not only very little iodine, which is essential, but there's little, our nutrients have gone MIA. And so, packaged wheat products are fortified with folic acid and all these synthetic vitamins and stuff. So what I choose to do and what I implore listeners to do is to eat a nutrient-dense diet that is naturally going to provide nutrients like iodine, the natural form of folate, because folic acid is always going to be synthetic. And, eggs are rich in iodine. Turkey is rich in iodine. Sea vegetables, kelp. Kelp is like the top known source of iodine.
And the different colors of the salts and such, like the reds and the pinks and the
that's
black.
just a reflection of mineral content,
So probably get like a variety of different colors, or is it it's not so relevant, you think?
I mean, I don't choose salt for color, but the more natural salts are going to have different colors in them. You're going to see some grays, you're going to see some pinks. Right. I don't know what color is, what minerals are responsible for what color, but Himalayan pink salt is decent. You're going to get, a non-trivial amount of other nutrients that you need in those salts. Salt is not going to be a replacement for getting selenium, for example, in your diet, or getting potassium or zinc, for example. But it's just more complete. It's a more complete mineral profile.
What about comparing salt to like an electrolyte supplement?
I like some of those. Yeah. I mean, I had this woman on my podcast recently who created a ready-to-drink sports supplement, electrolyte ready-to-drink beverage called Halo Sport, which is basically like an electrolyte drink. It's got higher levels of sodium. It's got a little bit of magnesium. It doesn't have all the fake shit that the Gatorades of the world have. So I like those. But I think in general, it's helpful to know when you really need to replace your electrolytes. Profuse sweating. Most people, I'm not a huge sweater when I go to the gym, but when I use a sauna, I'm using a sauna in part because I want to sweat profusely, because it helps your body purge some of the toxins that we accumulate. So that's when I'm thinking about like how I'm going to replace the electrolytes. After just like a half an hour high intensity interval training workout at the gym, I'm not thinking about electrolytes after, because at that point food is fine. Right. But yeah,
I'm asking this selfishly because the editor there's specific things. So in the morning I recommend, because it's something I do and a lot of people recommend doing, like water and then adding some sea salt and then some lemon, and then I'm kind of curious about like apple cider vinegar as well. Like I do that. Do you think that
doesn't provide electrolytes, but
no for other purposes?
Yeah, the thing is, so I was going to say, there are certain things that you do that act as a diuretic. So if you drink a lot of coffee, you're going to find yourself peeing more. You lose sodium through your urine. If you are on certain actually SSRI drugs, they increase sodium depletion. Ketogenic diets, you start to require more sodium because insulin, basically, which is reduced on a ketogenic diet, helps your body hold on to sodium. So if you do a very low carb diet, it helps to replace. You're not holding on to sodium as efficiently, which is important. I think a lot of people forget that sodium is a nutrient, and salt is the primary vehicle by which we get sodium in our diets. There used to be salt licks. Salt licks were these like valuable things for animals, and it was actually a prized nutrient. Like the word salary actually derives from sodium, from salt.
Right, you're not worth your salt.
You're not worth your salt, yeah. So it's just become another one of these things that has been perhaps wrongfully demonized over the past couple of of decades.
What about lemons and scurvy and all that stuff? No, not scurvy so much, but just in relation to like old history, nutritional stories. What about the value in lemons day to day? Is there something like
Lemon's good.
lemon water in the morning? You think that's a relevant thing? Is what I'm asking.
Not super.
Yeah, cut it out.
I mean, don't cut it out if you enjoy it.
I like it.
It provides vitamin C.
What about alkaline? The whole alkaline thing.
Bullshit.
Shoot.
Sorry. You definitely don't want to drink alkaline water around meals because you need that stomach acid.
Oh, good point.
Hydrochloric acid helps you absorb, numerous vitamins, minerals. It keeps, it can help prevent bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. You do not want to dilute your stomach acid. Yeah.
But so what is that with, these are very novice, silly questions. I apologize. But, so if you're, what is it called when the citrus cooks the fish? Come on.
I know ceviche.
Yeah, ceviche.
Yeah.
So that's like helping break the fish down.
Yeah.
So it's like, that seems like it's helping with digestion in a sense, or not so much at all. But then it's alkaline as well, because the initial lemon is acidic, but then the ash is what it's called once it like gets processed by your system is quite alkaline.
Yeah.
I might be confusing.
I like ceviche. I'll tell you that. I really like, and I like Peruvian food, which is where they really know how to make a good ceviche.
All right. What is
ceviche is the bomb.
Do you recommend lemons for people?
Yeah, lemon's great. Lemon's great. I like to put some in water because I like the flavor. I like to put it in my salads. I think it makes a great, super light salad dressing.
Yeah.
Yeah, lemon's good. I have a tendency, I like to kind of chew on lemons and limes, which is not good for you. Can destroy your tooth enamel.
Right.
Yeah. I like to kind of avoid that stuff. I like to protect my tooth enamel, especially because I don't use fluoride in my toothpaste.
Yeah, right.
So
there's a straw in it on that lemon juice.
Yeah.
So how's your perspective changed on the world since your book's been all successful and stuff? Have you noticed a shift in your personality? Have you noticed a shift in your perspective on things in general, your wants?
I definitely feel like I learned a lot about nutrition, and it's a constant journey, right? So I'm always willing to challenge my beliefs, even if they are things that are documented and out in the world in my book Genius Foods, for example. But since writing the book and since having Genius Foods come out, I've become a lot more interested in other aspects of of what I would call quote unquote genius lifestyle. So everything from cold exposure to sitting in saunas. I've become really interested in. If you guys are hearing that, the sirens in the background, it's because we're in LA.
I don't think they'll hear it.
No,
maybe a little bit.
Oh.
It's fine.
I have become really interested in environmental toxins, like compounds in the environment that are not good for you, that the body has a capacity to cope with, but have become increased due to the modern sort of milieu. Plastics, for example, heavy metal exposures and things like that. I think nutrition is like a huge part of it, and we can we can totally go down a rabbit hole talking about nutrition and my thoughts there. But nutrition is like one part of the equation. The thing is, you can be doing everything right when it comes to nutrition, but we live in a world where it's sort of like a constant onslaught. We're inundated with toxic exposures, whether it's through the air, the environment, or even when we're walking on the street, or even in our own homes. Like our house dust is contaminated with numerous hormone disrupting chemicals and heavy metals and you name it. So I've just become, I guess, a little bit more concerned about that, and I've been doing a bit of reading on that stuff.
What's some low hanging fruit with like house dust and things like that? What can people actually access and shift in their own home without just becoming like a hypochondriac? Yeah,
I mean, one of the I think most important things is to make sure that if you're buying furniture, you're buying it without flame retardants. Flame retardants basically are able to come off of the furniture and help form the dust that we see in our apartments. So dust is not inert. It's not, I don't know where most people think that dust comes from, but it's either sloughed off of our plastic products or
skin.
Some of it's skin, certainly. Some of it's skin.
I thought dust was all just a bunch of skin.
It's not all skin.
God, I'm so misinformed.
House dust is a major source of exposure for flame retardant chemicals, for heavy metals. If you live in a home that's been built prior to 1978, the dust in your house is likely contaminated with, microscopic particles of lead-based paint, which was used very frequently before 1978, before they realized that there was no safe blood level of lead, and that it creates, cognitive problems in children. So, so lead-based paint if you live in an older house. What else? There's a lot. There's bisphenol A, and there's phthalates.
Filters for the houses?
Yeah, I'm a believer in...
I just keep my doors open all the time and my windows open all the time.
That's
and
good.
I have plants everywhere.
Well,
They're the best filters, from my understanding. There's that NASA study where they measured, I think it was I don't know how many, 20 different common house plants, and they found a lot of them to be more effective than most any filter that was on the market.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I use a HEPA filter. It's funny though, because living in Los Angeles, you would assume that the outside air is dirtier than the home air. And the home air, your home air is like your home, right? But actually, it's like the primary source of exposure for many of these chemicals. And people that are, that spend more time in the house, as well as infants and pets, are at the highest risk of exposure, which is kind of tragic because they're the most vulnerable to the detrimental effects of exposure. But yeah, our electronics are able to slough off particles of phthalates and bisphenols, which are endocrine disrupting plasticizer chemicals, and we breathe them in. So it's just it's problematic. I'm not a hypochondriac, but what I've done is I've tried to basically minimize my exposure to these chemicals, because so frequently these chemicals are put, industrial compounds are put into these products, and they're sort of assumed to be innocent until proven guilty, right? Like the justice system. That's a good thing for a justice system, but for these potentially harmful chemicals, I think that it's actually the wrong approach to take. It's the wrong attitude to take, and we have numerous instances throughout history where these industrial chemicals have been put into the food supply or put into the market, only later to be revealed as damaging. So asbestos-based building insulation is a perfect example of that. We already talked about lead-based paint, partially hydrogenated oils. We now know, after they'd been on supermarket shelves for decades, that there's no safe level of trans fat consumption. So I mean, just imagine all the other chemicals that that we have yet. And I'm not, what's the word? I'm not afraid of. I'm not one of those people that's if you can't pronounce it, it's dangerous. I'm not like that. If you were to break a blueberry apart.
Xenophobia.
Something. Yeah, I guess that's the word.
To leave your house. I guess in this case, you can't leave your fucking house.
Yeah, well.
You're scared.
No, definitely not. But I think knowledge is power, right? And so there are kind of I like to triage my approach and my anxieties ultimately, and the most common ones I think are incidentally the easiest to look out for and to minimize your exposure to.
I wonder how much of this stuff is kind of germ theory versus terrain theory, the idea of the bacteria is going to kill you, but then there's also this whole other aspect of what's the terrain that the bacteria is interacting with, so how can what are some things that you can do, even maybe from the way that you're describing it now, psychologically, to put yourself in a place where you're not so susceptible to becoming sick by your environment.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about because living in these worlds, steeping in those worlds where everyone's just essentially, you can figure out some reason that the sun is killing us for sure. You can figure out some reason, everything, you can break it down why it's killing you. If that's the perspective that you go into the world, placebo and nocebo, they're legit.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I mean, the thing is, our bodies are, most of the time, our bodies detox on autopilot. We don't have to do much. And in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to do anything, right? But it's sort of like a scale, right? Our bodies have a certain capacity to detox and to provide antioxidant protection against these compounds, heavy metals, plasticizers, you name it. But because the modern world basically has stacked the odds so much against us that our body's, defensive capacity has been overrun. And that's why I think so many of us are sick. I mean, today, if you make it to the age of 40, you have an 80% chance of dying either from heart disease, cancer, or dementia. And it's just, these are the leading causes of death now worldwide. It's a tragedy. And I think, we should do whatever we can to fight back. I don't know.
You've pondered on death quite a bit.
Yeah.
How often do you think about death?
I think about it these days pretty frequently because my mom just passed, and yeah, it's there's no good explanation for why my mom was as sick as she was, other than just being in a toxic environment. So I have just become very vigilant, and it's an investigation that is probably going to last for the rest of my life. And I don't want to develop what my mom developed. I don't want other people that I love to develop what my mom developed. And so, yeah, I realize that at the end of the day, nobody but you has your back, And if you're lucky, one of your loved ones has your back as well, like I did for my mom. But the medical industry doesn't have your back. Mm-mm. The food industrial complex doesn't have your back. It's just, it's sort of like the Hunger Games out there. And so what I want to do is I just want to like provide information, not, maybe advice to some degree. I'm not like a medical doctor, obviously, but again, I think knowledge is power. And I think that this idea that you need to be like a doctor to know how to properly care for the human body, for your body, I think is, it's one of the reasons why we feel so disempowered when it comes to our health.
Yeah.
I feel tremendously empowered. The research is out there. We have the freaking internet. This is the first time in human history that all of the world's knowledge literally fits within your pocket and is a finger swipe away. Yeah. That, I feel incredibly empowered. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use those same tools to help other people. And part of it is selfish because I know that the best way to learn is to teach. So
do you ever stew on like kind of like what you'd like to like legacy before you die, or just what's the point of being here in the first place? And is that or something that you kind of ponder on, like before you kick the bucket?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like life is kind of tragic, or at least my experience of it so far. And I'm privileged AF. Like, I'm very blessed. I grew up in New York City. There's a lot that I, am and should be grateful for, but I don't know. I mean, like, I'm pretty pissed that my mom was robbed from me at such a young age and was so sick for so long. So I just want to help people. But I'm not a martyr. I want to be happy too. I want to be able to afford the things that make me happy.
Yeah.
I want to be able to shop at the best supermarkets that I could afford. I want to be able to drive the safest car that I can afford. I like to travel, so I want to do that. I think, legacy. I don't know. I just want to be helpful and provide value for people, and feel inspired and like I'm doing what it is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah. Somebody asked me yesterday what makes me feel whole. And I was like, oh, that's a really good question.
What was your answer?
Being truthful, being connecting with people without fear. That's a big thing for me. Like those moments that I feel completely uninhibited, and I've had fear of I mean, it's starting to feel like a bit more of a story, but fear of abandonment. Now I've said it enough times. I'm like, okay, I think I'm, okay, I get that. We're all, it's recapitulation of the past.
Yeah.
Even the stories of the past, it is this recapitulation, whether that's exactly what happened, I don't fucking know. It's just they keep on repeating it over and over again. So anyways, the abandonment thing's starting to sound a little old, which is, I think that's good. That sounds valuable. But that's, to me, makes me feel quite whole, is having just dropping any type of restrictions from connection with, I mean, other people's is obvious because it's like connecting with another person, but then I think it's the same thing with connecting with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I've been having these really cool experiences through meditation recently, where like getting past, because I'm like fairly addicted to my cell phone, you know, and it's just like, I think most of the times when I have that sensation of reaching out and grabbing, it's like really I just want to hug. You know, I want to have like a tribe, or I want to have a community. I want to actually be valuable, you know, but we have so much excess that it's like, okay, I can kind of just sit here and, fuck, you know, we're in a more of a tribal environment. You always have it. Okay, we're building the fire. Okay, I'm going to take care of my neighbor's kid. Okay, I'm going to make some, you know, here we're like, oh, God, it's just, you can start spinning in excess.
Yeah, it just like reduces the friction and the resistance to that like dopamine hit, you know?
Yeah.
And it makes it so easy. I struggle with the same thing. I mean, you know, I guess, I'm definitely addicted to like my technology at this point.
I don't know many people. I mean, I think in LA it's different, but I don't know people that aren't. There's some people maybe are in denial about it.
Yeah.
But most people that I see, when they have an idle time, they reach to grab their phone to see if anything happened.
Yeah. I mean, I realize that I'm what I call like a wonder junkie. Like the minute I get a compulsion to Google something and to research something, like I'm on my phone, you know, like if I say a word that I want to make sure that I nailed the appropriate meaning of, I'm Googling like definitions, like, you know, words are language is very important to me as a science communicator. So like, I'm always like looking up, you know, word definitions, and I'm, you know, spending time on PubMed, and I'm just, without that, I mean,
that's why you're so damn precocious.
I mean, precocious. That, I mean, yeah. I don't know if I would.
Maybe that's not the right usage. Does it precocious mean that you're like above you're beyond your time, or do I mean using that wrong?
But I usually would.
I think you are. You're precocious AF, dude.
All right.
You're goddamn. What is your age?
36.
Yeah.
Can you be? Well, that's what I was wondering. Can you be precocious at 36?
Definitely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you're a smart guy. New York Times best-selling author.
Yeah. Well, so are you.
Isn't that funny, that title? New York Times bestseller. I was like, oh, okay. Everything changed, I guess.
I'm just. The title doesn't really mean that much to me, but I
for
guess
other people it does.
Well, I guess
I love it.
It is a title. Like for somebody who doesn't really have any titles, professional titles.
Yeah.
It's a title, and it's like open doors certainly. Yeah. But for me, I'm just like the most awesome thing about it is really that my book has gotten out there because I put a lot of work into it, and I think it's helped a lot of people, and so yeah. I mean, I hope that the next book is as successful, but I'm not. I wouldn't be.
All right. So did the book make you feel whole?
It did in a way, because now I have a body of work. Like I have a thing that's out there that proves that, you know, that like that I'm like adding something to the conversation. I'm not just like posting on Instagram all day or, you know, I'm proud of the book, but I also, whole. I don't know. I mean, I consider myself an artist too, so whether or not I feel whole changes hour to hour. Mm-hmm.
But those moments of like, really just feeling completely at home. Yeah. You know, or feeling completely just like not a care in the world. Like, don't change anything about this moment. Like, does that?
Yeah. I feel that way when I get feedback about my work and about the book. Like when people recognize me and they come up to me and they tell me that, like, I mean, and this has happened to an increasing degree, which is freaking amazing. But people come up to me and I tell people, like, if you see me, come say hi, that the book has changed their lives. It's changed the lives of their parents, that their dads and moms are eating differently and better, and that to me means the world to me. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a part of like the wholeness, is feeling like you're connecting to, like you're giving back to the grander organism. Yeah, you know, it's like you feel like, I don't know, like the Gaia model, like we're all one interacting organism, this Earth thing. Yeah. You know, astronauts go to space and they look down and they have this like unicity sensation. Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, whoa, okay. And the clouds are moving over here and the sun's coming over here. And and it's like, okay, that's just one breathing organism. And then we get down and, whoosh, you know, and then it's like into your face, you know, looking into your cell phone or whatever. And we can get kind of wrapped up in me just behind this skin. Yeah. But that starts, I think it becomes disconnected. And if you have that belief that it's just me behind the skin.
Yeah. You're talking about the overview effect, I think.
Yeah,
it's,
that's what it's called.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the human condition, is that we're trapped into this cycle of really being unable to see the forest for the trees. Mm-hmm. It's like this perpetual like condition where we're just so in this like human struggle.
Yeah.
That the context of it all, I think, is sometimes hard to observe, and that's why these astronauts, they have such a such a paradigm shift for them.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the One Strange Rock?
No.
Will Smith. Oh, dude, it's so good. So one of the things that's really cool in there, he gets into like, he talks about, Will Smith narrates it, and he's talking about these trees in the Amazon, and there's like this consistent cloud, these consistent clouds that are like always passing over, and it's like literally it's like a river in the sky, and they kind of just break that down, this beautiful visualization of the water going up the roots and then up, and then you see it coming out of the leaves, and then it consistently goes up into the clouds, and then it goes into this cloud river, and then it crashes into the Andes Mountains, and then whoosh, rolls back down to the river.
Wow.
And then whoosh, back into the roots, and then back into the whoosh. It's like it's just such a cool thing to see that. We're like, yeah, fuck, man. It's like we think, okay, there's the river. Okay, there's the cloud.
Yeah.
There's the tree. But the reality of it's always this mush.
Yeah.
It's always that overview unicity thing. It's like it's always happening.
Yeah.
And we kind of get tricked into thinking that we're alone, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of...
Well, that's the other thing is my my book and everything. It feels so gratifying because it makes me feel that the tragedy that I experienced with my mom, wasn't in vain, really. That it's she, like, my mom is in my work, and so it helps me to kind of feel a little bit better.
You wouldn't help all the people you have had your mom
No.
not be the way that she
Correct.
is and was.
Yeah, I mean, all my work is dedicated to my mom.
Yeah.
It's I became. We're sitting here having this conversation because of my mom. Like I started my career as a sort of generalist journalist at Current TV, which was Al Gore's TV network, and I after that job ended, when I realized that my mom was starting to develop these cognitive problems, I mean, at first I just couldn't go back to work. I couldn't even think about my career, let alone how to like navigate the shallow waters of Hollywood, which is what kind of I had done for the prior 8 years. So then I basically started to do the research, and I was talking to people about it, and it was a process, but eventually I guess I was on a bunch of different podcasts, and I started putting out content into the world, and I had learned a lot as a journalist about communication, and I was talking about before about my obsession with word choice, so communicating science and being accurate and kind of striking that delicate balance between not being overly confident in the research that I was reporting on, but also kind of like leaving everything with a sort of hint of optimism, became something that I just became really dedicated to, and people picked up on it. The Dr. Oz show saw some of my work. They had me on, and it was, I guess, in retrospect, it was just like the perfect combination of being like the right person for the job, being able to kind of synthesize all of this research that I was reading and present it in a way that was not inaccessible, because I think science and research, and even, a lot of the other sort of, even scientists that are out there in the world putting out content, like I feel like they can be so robotic. And, my vibe is, I think, a little bit more approachable. And it's approachable because it's just who I am, but it's also by design. Like, I want to actually help the people that need it the most, not just the people, although I have love for them too, but like those that are following the LCHF paleo hashtags, on Instagram or Twitter.
What is LCHF?
Low carb, high fat. Or yeah.
Right. How long is that gonna last? Is that got like another like 3 years?
What the fat, like the
Just all the things.
Well-
Like there's everything's trend based.
yeah, I think. Well,
I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's great. Like I had a bunch of bacon and eggs today. It was awesome. I felt great afterwards. But
yeah, I think it's good. I think eventually we're going to learn that certain types of fats are more benign for some, and perhaps more, relevant in terms of health to others. Like for example, saturated fats. I think some people don't metabolize saturated fats as well as others, and we really are just kind of at the tip of the iceberg in terms of understanding who that person is that's not going to benefit from throwing butter into their smoothies and their coffee, right? Yeah, so I mean, I don't think that there's no such thing as a one size fits all diet, but what the ideal diet is for you, that's going to take a little bit of experimentation,
Yeah.
If there's anything good that's come out of the obsession with bulletproof eating and low carb, high fat, it's that, well, we're no longer afraid of fat, which is good because fat's essential. The question then becomes like, what are the right kinds of fats for you? And I think that the safest recommendation to make for anybody is that the healthiest fat is going to be extra virgin olive oil.
Yeah, that's my go-to.
Yeah.
I douse it.
Yeah. Avocado oil is like a close second.
Yeah, I got that from Gundry.
Yeah.
Gundry's like, everything's a vehicle for olive oil. I
Yeah.
was like, I agree. After that, I got like my certification to just dump olive oil and everything.
Well, yeah, but
Gundry.
then again, I also don't even think, and I diverge from his thinking in that, at the end of the day, oil is still not a particularly nutrient dense food. It's an extract from a food.
Right.
It's as natural of a food as you can, or as natural of an oil as you can get, right? Because humans have been making extra virgin olive oil for thousands of years. But I think something like 5,000 years. It goes back in the archaeological record. But because all you do is crush olives to make extra virgin olive oil. But still, it's like, it's still just like pure fat, so it's very healthy. If I'm eating a salad, I'm putting extra virgin olive oil on it. But like this idea that we need to like slam oil and be, drinking oil essentially, I don't think is super smart.
Yeah. How have you worked with grief? We were talking about the book. What is the book called? The 5 Stages of Grief?
On Death and Dying.
Death and Dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you learned about the process of working with grief?
Oh,
Is it okay
man.
if I talk about that? Or
Yeah.
ask about that?
I mean, no, I haven't done a podcast. I should though.
Yeah. But it's okay for me to be.
Of course.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on grief. I definitely, at various times of the day, I feel disbelief. I feel, if it's been a few hours since I've thought of my mom, or if I had a particularly joyous day and I maybe hadn't thought about my mom, then when it comes to me, I feel guilt about having not thought about her. There's a lot of disbelief. I don't know what the official term.
That was the first stage.
First stage, yeah. Denial.
And
Yeah.
then the next one's anger.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, what's so weird is that I can look on my iPhone and see HD beautiful photos and videos of my mom, because I would like film my mom often.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to believe that that person is not here anymore. And yeah, it's horrible. And anger, I guess, I feel angry because just at the whatever it was about the world that, whatever it was about her environment that caused her to become so sick. I mean, that's something that I think about a lot. It's it's just horrible. I mean, I've definitely learned a few lessons from the whole experience, I guess one is that if you love somebody, let them know that you love them.
Yeah.
That's very important. It can be awkward. I can't tell you the last time I told my brothers that I love them, but I should.
Yeah.
The future's not guaranteed. Freaking fuselage from a jet can fall at any moment. Hit me on the head, so tell the people that you love them. Try to find a way to do it. Spend time around the people that you love. That's one of the reasons why I moved back almost as soon as I could after my mom passed from New York to LA, because I missed my friends, like you, like the whole community out here. Yeah. I just didn't want to spend any more time away from my friends. And then my brothers are still in New York, and selfishly, I'm like trying to get them to move to LA, which I think is going to happen, because I'm like, I want the family to be together. So it's made me feel more precious about life and time, and yeah. But it's not easy. I don't really believe in an afterlife. So
what do you think it is that makes one person more or less attached to a family member than another?
I don't know. I mean, I was the first born. I was like, my mom's the oldest out of 3, so I was always the closest with my mom. And family's tough, like it can be stressful. There were times when I just, didn't want to be in my mom's house because it was honestly kind of depressing to be there. Yeah. And I mean, trust me, I sacrificed a lot, which I would willingly do 1,000 times over for my mom. Yeah. But there were times when I just didn't feel like going over there, or when my mom hated whenever I would travel. My mom loved being around me and my brothers, and almost to a point of codependence.
This is as she was starting to get sick?
Well, no, yeah. Well, for the past couple of years, yeah. The dementia, she knew that I needed to travel for my work. But I think the dementia made it more difficult for her to control her emotions and to contextualize, and so there were times when I would be excited to be going on a trip to Los Angeles for a week or 2 weeks to see my friends, and in front of me, she would start crying, thinking about me traveling and going away, and that was really hard. I mean, that was super hard because I love my friends, and my life in New York for the past 5 years in many ways was kind of like in a bit of a holding pattern. Totally. I was in New York. When I first moved back to New York, I lived in my mom's house. So I was 32 living in my mom's house, which, it was in Manhattan. It was an apartment in Manhattan, not the most spacious. I had my own bedroom, but I think I was dating somebody at the time in LA. We broke up. I then ended up moving in with my little brother into a, small apartment in the same building. And, most of the time in New York, I would spend time with my brothers, who I love again, but they're not like the same as, my friends. Friends are the family that you choose. I would end up spending most of my time with my brothers, and my social life basically took a back seat. My dating life was non-existent, and I'm not complaining. Like, again, I would make the same choices 1,000 times again. But yeah, when I would book those trips to go to LA, it was like, okay, a reprieve from dementia and all this stuff. And then, and I would tell my mom, and she would start crying, and it was heartbreaking because, I fucking loved my mom more than anything. Like, we were so close, and my mom was this youthful 58, at the time, she was 66 rather when she passed, but to see your mom cry and to know that you're the reason that she's crying, it's really hard, really, really hard, especially when her quality of life had already been compromised so much. The last thing you want to do is give them another reason to cry.
What is your sense of death?
Well, it's horrible. I think it's...
Is it horrible?
Dying is horrible. It would
probably be a lot more challenging for Earth.
Dying is horrible.
Yeah.
Death, I think, is probably a relief, especially if you, like my mom, was not well for so long. Mm-hmm. But dying is, especially because in this culture we don't really talk about death and dying. Mm-hmm. But it was for my mom, it was painful. It was sad. It was, it was, it made me think about physician-assisted suicide and, whether or not I would want that for myself, were I in my mom's shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Thank God for the hospice nurses that we had, because they were like angels.
What do you think about the release part of death? Like, I've had experiences with DMT, for example.
Yeah.
Where it felt as though... Have you ever used anything like that?
No.
Okay. So it felt during... Do you talk about psychedelics at all?
Not really. I'm like, I know enough to kind of have like a cursory level, like a surface level conversation, but not my wheelhouse. I'm interested in the research on how they're using like psilocybin at Hopkins to treat.
Have you used psychedelics? Is that something you don't talk about on podcasts?
I've tried like low dose psilocybin.
It's been really, I believe psilocybin specifically has been shown to be really helpful in hospice care to help people gain a relationship with death. Like huge impact on just like the grace, feeling like contentment, like, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm going home, or I'm going into the light, or
what they say,
it's like a release.
They say that Aldous Huxley, he wrote The Doors of Perception, that he went out with an IV drip of LSD.
Yeah.
My favorite band of all time has a whole song about that. About
Huxley's drip.
Yeah. The song is called TBD by the band Live, and it.
Oh, dude, I used to love Live.
Yeah, my favorite band. Because of things like this, like they wrote a song about Aldous Huxley. So as he was being fed this like IV drip of LSD, his wife sat by his bedside, by his deathbed, reading to him the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is, of course, about the journey that the soul takes from the moment of death.
So cool.
To rise. Crazy. So anyway.
But so the experience that I had with using DMT, this was 5-MeO DMT, so one from the toad. There's also an N-DMT, which is like a synthesized version. But it felt as though I experienced like this release of the tensions of having to occupy this body, and fucking shave your face and, guard your heart and put deodorant on and pay taxes and think about messaging that person back and all this. It's like,
oh yeah.
And then compound that, like, be really sick on top of that.
It's a struggle.
Oh, man. And so it was a really interesting sensation to have this, like, it felt as though it just like, oh, like imagine like a beautiful woman like dropping her robe, like, whew, oh, whoa, hello. But it felt like it was like the robe was like this covering, and then it's just like, whoosh, dropped down. And it was almost as though I could like grab the robe off the ground in a way. I was like, oh, that's all my tension of my life and all my protection and all my shit. But it was a fascinating experience just to get to like bear witness of that sensation of, oh, this is what it would be to be like, it sounds way out there, but just to be light. Like it feels like as though, like there's a quote from this, it's a woman that died of cancer and she came back. And one of the quotes, I don't remember her name, but she said that our life, it's like we're living in this huge warehouse and all we have is this little flashlight to look around. And then when you die, the lights come on in the warehouse. And it felt a lot like that. It's like the tension of noodling around trying to find your keys with the flashlight. Like,
oh my God,
where's the keys? You're always trying to find the keys.
Yeah. I get it. Life is hard. I get it. And I say this again, like it's hard. I'm the most privileged fucking guy in the world. I'll be the first to say that, But yeah, no, it's hard for everybody. It's hard for everybody. And knowing that, being sensitive to that, I think, as you are, as I have certainly become, it's, I think it's going to make you a better leader, I think, and a better teacher ultimately, because, you see behind the veil and everybody has their own struggle. And I think that's, to be conscious of that and to be I don't know. I just think it's going to make, I don't know.
Do you feel like you have any fear of death with yourself?
I don't want to get sick.
Yeah.
Seeing what my mom went through, if she went through it, I could go through it. I'm not saying that I want that for myself, but it's made me less afraid. Yeah. That's the thing. We don't know, like, when it's our time to go. I could develop exactly what my mom developed, and all of my, eating organic kale and, intermittent fasting and saunas, like, could ultimately be for naught, right? But I still think it's better to empower yourself, right? And to protect yourself if you can. And I think I think that makes it worthwhile.
So the what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Dementia is the overarching umbrella term for it, and then Alzheimer's is one of the ones within that.
Yeah.
What are other ones that fall under the dementia umbrella?
You have Parkinson's. Well, so my mom didn't have Alzheimer's disease. She had another type. Under the dementia category, there's frontotemporal dementia, there's Lewy body dementia, there's Alzheimer's disease dementia, there's Parkinson's disease dementia, and then you can have medical conditions that affect your cognition, where you might have sort of like a pseudo dementia. I mean, depression is a good example. If you're, depressed enough, it can affect your cognition to the point where, you would have almost like a reversible dementia. It's not the same thing as Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is not reversible, but that's why if you're having memory problems, the first thing that you want to do is see a doctor, obviously.
Do you think there could be any type of like baseline kind of seed of maybe like some type of like psychosomatics? Like sometimes people relate certain cancers to something that was like an emotional issue. Do you think there could be some type of like withdrawal from something that could lead to a person to like want to forget?
It's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think for many people, I think that the cause of dementia is probably vascular. Like related to vascular dysfunction, and the conditions that would underlie, for example, heart disease. I think in a susceptible person that creates dementia. Whether it's vascular dementia, which is another type of dementia, it's the second most common form of dementia, or even Alzheimer's disease, where there's a breakdown of the blood-brain barrier. So yeah, in terms of like psychosomatic causes, zero, like evidence. I would not. Right. But I don't know. My mom had a lot of stress in her life. Stress is a risk factor. Chronic stress. Yeah. So
if you have chronic stress, like we have so much control. Like we were talking about, joking about Wim, and like you said, you had like the sniffles or whatever. I was like, goddamn, Wim can cure
You're right,
whatever, polio or something like that. Whatever. What did he inject into him?
He injected lipopolysaccharide, or LPS, which is like a bacterial endotoxin.
That was
I'm pretty sure. Polio?
No, it's not. I thought it was a coli.
Did he inject E. coli? I think
I might be making that up. But anyway, so he's got a lot of control of his vascular system / his immune system.
Right.
Cytokines.
He's the man. I've never met him, but
he's great.
We follow each other on the gram.
Your alter egos know each other.
Yeah. He seems like a really cool guy.
Yeah. But so I think it's very interesting how much control we actually have over our physiology and over our cells.
We do.
Over
we think
our
we
brain.
do. Yeah.
And it's like if you withdraw from your life, like it's like if I told you right now, if you remember these 5 names, tomorrow I'll give you $1 million. You'd be like, done.
Yeah.
If I said, remember these 5 names, and then we just move on, you're like, probably not.
Right. You got to be, incentive.
So it's that engagement with life. I'm not relating this to dementia, but just in general, like those are kind of almost 2 separate analogies. But I think it's interesting how much control we have over our physiology.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah. Don't be a backseat driver in your own life. The stakes are too high.
Yeah.
The stakes are too high. Take the wheel.
Yeah.
And that's where I think all these little things, whether it's like taking a cold shower on a regular basis, or sauna, sitting in the sauna, or
playing music with your bro.
As we were doing.
Didge baritone ukulele session before this. It actually sounded reasonably fine.
It was, we were good.
It was actually all right.
Start a band.
We're done. Like, this is happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think these are all meaningful things, and yeah, that's it. Sometimes people take this nihilistic approach, like you can't control anything, so I'm just gonna like smoke and drink my way. Fuck it all. Yeah.
The thing is, you are controlling it.
Well, yeah. Exactly.
That nihilistic decision. Like,
totally.
That's your religion.
Totally.
I was thinking about this recently about religion, how I think we put these kind of like idols in place of like, I worship Krishna or Jesus or Buddha or whatever. But meanwhile, that just occupies a fairly small space of most people's cognitive bandwidth. And then most of what we actually worship on a day-to-day basis is just the kind of idea I'm just kind of like, we're just toying with. But most of our true religion, I think, is the thing that we actually pray to, which for most people is like their goals, so like their career or their financial goals or their, whatever.
Yeah.
We put these things like my religion, but like, I think our religion is just what you spend the most time thinking about.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say in a way, science is my religion. Like I'm a pretty firm believer that science is going to have my back in some form or another. I'm a believer in the power of connection, in the power of music, in the power of art and film.
Yeah.
Those are my, I have like, I would say quasi-religious experiences watching, like a good movie, or like my favorite movies, for example, or seeing my favorite bands in concert, or playing music or whatever, And
you have that connection.
Yeah.
Which is cool. You get to connect with the whole audience, the whole crowd, and you get that unicity kind of overview, astronaut effect thing.
Yeah. I've definitely had I would say like deep religious experience listening to certain bands, or, like not just me. I'm not like a music generalist. Like I have like a small group of bands that I'm like, wow, like, wow, that vocal was like transcendent, and I get goosebumps, and I'm like, oh, this is probably what people go to church to get, and they can't access it in their secular lives.
Yeah.
But
the first flute, we'll wrap up here soon, because it's great doing the Sonic because I have the official timer. I set it for 58 minutes, so we could stop anytime, really. But the first flute, I think it was called the Djevbe flute. Djevbe, D-J-E-V-B-E, I believe. And it was found in, I think it was a northern European country. It was like 40,000 years ago. And this is, when it dates back to, when it actually was, who knows. But they dated back to 40,000 years ago. And it's from the femur of a cave bear. And they find this flute. It's just fascinating to me that there was some dude 40-odd thousand years ago that felt compelled to hollow out this femur to be able to make sounds come out of it.
Yeah.
While he could have been like, avoiding being eaten, or tried to build shelter, or tried to fornicate or whatever. He's like, I'm going to take this femur and put some holes and blow and make sounds out of it. I think that there's some type of like deep biological medicinal value to music that we think of music as being like kind of like extra credit.
Yeah.
Bonus, but I think there's some deeper.
Oh,
deep
totally.
Steven Pinker kind of mocks music. Actually, he says
what?
it's like evolutionary, or it's like audio cheesecake. He said it's delicious, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, fuck that.
If you're listening, Pinker,
yeah,
I don't know why you would, because you're far smarter than me. But
no, man. Well, he's wrong. He's wrong. Music is amazing. I think music is a way to interface with the divine. It always has been. It's powerful. And the act of creating music is powerful. I mean, just like being able to sing. Like, think about the fact that singing basically activates like your vagus nerve and stokes a parasympathetic way of being, you know, so there's actually a therapeutic benefit to singing.
It literally tunes you.
Yeah.
Tunes your nervous system.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love singing. I love singing, playing guitar. It's the best.
Do you pay attention to your voice and the fact that you're always singing?
I do pay attention to my voice, yeah, because I always want to be a better singer. I'm very conscious of like, you know, what good singing is, and I wish I was a better singer. Like I taught myself to sing, and I've come a long way. But I think that's the beautiful thing about music is that it's like it's this lifelong journey. You could always learn more, be better, and yeah. So I'm always like practicing and yeah.
There's a guy, and then we really will wrap up. Do you know Stephen Porges? You're familiar with him at all? Polyvagal theory.
I know his son actually.
Oh, really?
Seth Porges. Yeah, he's a really smart guy.
Where's he at?
In New York.
Oh, all right.
I don't know. He gave me the book that his dad wrote, and I never read it.
It's pretty thick.
Yeah.
Yeah. But well, I mean, it's not like huge, but it's like dense with information. You know. But he came up with a thing called the Safe Sound Project (SSP), and it's used for kids with like ADHD and like anxiety, I think even like depression and different kind of like cognitive disorders. They use sound, they listen to these different frequencies of sound to literally, like you said, or we both said, like kind of like reharmonize their nervous system. And you hear that when, like, if you play music. So if you're playing with musicians that are better than you or whatever, you get better. You're like, oh shit, like, yeah, like we getting some. And you play with people that are worse. You're like, oh, I'm leading it. Like, I'm not sure about this. And so that's happening all the time as we're listening to different tones, frequencies. It will, literally affect the way that we think and the way that we feel.
Wow, so cool.
Pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for sitting in the sauna.
Dude, thanks for having me. Anytime.
I appreciate it.
Seriously, next time I promise I'll go in the cold plunge.
Oh yeah, cold plunge. Yeah. Where should people should obviously get Genius Foods.
Pick up Genius Foods. It's probably the best investment I think you can make in the health of your brain and body. Find me on Instagram at Max Lugavere, and I host my own podcast actually, which you were on, one of my favorite episodes, called The Genius Life.
Genius Life. Cool.
Yeah.
I actually agree with your nutritional stuff, which is great. Not that like you need my validation by any means, but that's like,
well, you're a smart guy. I appreciate that.
In the nutritional realm, I just kind of am more like intuitive. I don't really know what's going on, but everything that you have in there, I'm like, yes. That's pretty much what's in my fridge for the most part.
Dude, epic. I love to hear that.
So,
and that's why you're in such fucking good shape, man. Every time I see you, you get more and more jacked.
I pretty much look exactly the same each time you see me, but I appreciate
that's
that.
Not true. No, dude. You're like the Hulk, but like in a svelte kind of like looks good in clothes way.
I'm like a ballet dancing Hulk.
Yeah.
It's like a lesser.
Whatever you're doing, keep it up. I don't know if it's Genius Foods or what, but
I don't know what. I think it's the cold plunge helps.
Yeah.
Just getting cold, surfing. It's all the shit. Like, that's the thing is people, and we actually have to wrap up, but I think that people get wrapped up with this perfect recipe of like, okay, I did all and I got this book and I'm following it's like, I think joy, like you need joy in your life. If you don't start with that baseline foundation of like, I genuinely derive joy from the shit that I'm doing at a cellular level, your body's like, what are we doing here? So like martyring yourself in the name of some bullshit food that doesn't actually make you be like, carpe diem, like I'm here.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue. And then the other thing, like finding fitness and that you actually derive joy from, finding relationships that you actually, it doesn't feel like it's this artificial kind of plane that you're on. It actually feels like you can root into that and feel supported.
Yeah.
If you feel supported, then you're not going to have that inflammatory response, and from my perspective.
Yeah. Good point.
Of like defense.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Word. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother.
You're the man.
Appreciate it. Over and out.
Thank you all so much for tuning into that conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I am super excited to present to you guys the Align Method online program, which focuses on unwinding some of the deleterious effects of essentially staring into technology. So forward head posture, rolled forward shoulders, and just general collapsy postural patterns. And also gets into a movement guide and how to integrate better movement into your life. So you can check that out at alignpodcast.com/align method, ALIGN podcast.com/align method, or you can find it at the Instagram page, Align Podcast, in the bio. Thank you to the folks that have grabbed the Align band, heavy-duty resistance band with a door anchor and a free video guide that goes with it. So you can actually just access the free video guide if you want, just to get resistance band exercise in general. It's at alignband.com, alignband.com. All right. Thanks, guys, so much for tuning in. Appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Pow.